Is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Thursday. Yeah. What up, Damon? I miss you too, bro. It's good to see you. Hey, Frank. Oh, man, what a week. What a Thursday. I did yard work before this. I am just dead. Just need to take a nap. There's De La Soul. Just what is going on, my man? Need a gunshot tune for my BMW B58. Hit me up. I don't even know what platform you tune that on. Hey, Kevin. Much love back. Much love back, Demon. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Ain't been missing much, as usual. Got the last parts on the way for the Camaro. Moving my meat birds. Dude, it's so hot. So hot. And it was wet, so half the grass wasn't cutting worth a damn, but I don't know. You just never can tell when it's going to rain or when it's not going to rain nowadays. Ugh. What do I think about the X650 stuff? Well, I'm glad to see that it's out there. It's unlocked. Congrats on HP Tuners for cracking that egg. What I didn't realize was that Whipple somehow, that's what people were using was the Whipple tune, and Whipple apparently had gone to Ford. And it doesn't make much sense that Ford helped them out with custom tunes, and then they lock down ECUs. Hey, Cole. I don't get it. So I'll tell you what. So what it is and why we see so many of these ECUs being locked down nowadays is because of all the communication standards and the fact that, what was it, 10, 15 years ago, people were able to hack Chrysler products and basically shut cars off remotely and stuff like that. And that's why, thanks, Cole. I shaved my mustache off. That's why if I shaved my goatee off, I'd probably look another 5 years younger. The gray is really, really starting to set in. This is what YouTube does to you. It makes you turn gray. Ah, you're a troll, ICT car guy. You're a troll. We'll give you a 1 week ban. How's that sound? I'm teasing. What are we doing? Yeah, exactly. I got a nice racing stripe right down the middle. Brown with a white racing stripe. Worst color combination ever. Wait till the show is over, then ban you. What's going on, everybody? Tell me what's new. Give me something new besides the S650 stuff, which is awesome. What do you think about Gen 4 engine and how much power it can handle? Is it better than Gen 3 Coyote? Gen 4 LS versus Gen 3 Coyote? What up, Andrew? Hey, Juan. What's going on, my man? I need caffeine. I finally got my drive shaft ordered. Expensive. $1,500 for a custom aluminum drive shaft. Oh, man, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about Gen 3 Coyote versus Gen 4 Coyote. I don't know enough about Fords. What up, Kamar? I don't even know. What's the main differences between the 3rd and 4th gen? Dude, carbon. Last time I bought a carbon fiber drive shaft, it cost me over $2,000, and it exploded on the first pass at the drag strip. It was a sad day. The only nice thing about it was nothing else got destroyed in the process. Which I've had aluminum aluminum let go and it'll tear some stuff up, but it's not that bad. You know, I have less fear of aluminum coming up through the trans tunnel and stuff and getting into the interior than steel. Yeah, it is a fuse. Yeah, it is. It but as I said, $2,500 one. That was the big thing whenever I was doing the drive shaft on the Nova, was trying to decide what to go with that, and I ended up going on chromoly with that, which is a little sketchy because chromoly for a street car is not the best idea because of the brittleness. Still doing the tuning on your platform? Yeah, De La Soul. Yep. Yep. I think I may have a slot or two open. I literally just wrapped up a tune today. So that always feels good, especially given my OCD proclivities and how long it takes me to do a custom tune. I guarantee you there's not a tuner on the face of the planet who does remote tunes and spends as much time and does as many revisions as I do. Because if they are, they're dumb. You don't make money doing it that much. What do you think on family sedan? Thinking of the SS, trying to get a reliable family car. I love the SS. Love the SS. New truck ever get sorted out with blower install? Yeah, I got rid of that truck. For multiple reasons. And it wasn't, well, it sort of was, because throwing the blower on there just turned it into an absolute gas hog. I mean, it just got terrible gas mileage. Lots of power. There's some very interesting global B issues in working through the neural network and stuff. And I'm working on a couple other ones. They're both ProCharge though. No, one's a Whipple and the other one's ProCharge. The Whipple is easier to tune than the ProCharger, and the reason behind that is I don't know. ProCharger did something weird on the intake track that really messes up the mass airflow. And so we've had to go over to essentially a speed density tune, which is just a neural network tune, which means that it's super hard to dial in. But both of them are doing fairly well. And as I said, it's my OCD more than anything. Like, I'm so OCD about that stuff. But yeah, I got a Colorado ZR2, and I'm very happy with it. A lot better gas mileage, and I don't know how they get that little Turbo Max motor to run on 87 pump gas. I hear you, De La Soul. Fuel system question. Stock is returnless. When I put on a blower, I'm assuming I need to replace the pump and run a new line fuel pressure regulator. Use stock lines return. That is one path, Andrew. It just depends on whether or not, like, how much you're adding to it. Like, if you're adding 7 psi, you're probably fine on the stock fuel system, pump, and lines. Once you get beyond that, then you need to look at upgrades and stuff like that. But so it's a question that there's a lot of variables that could go into it. So, like, example, the Whipple setup on the Silverado was all stock. It didn't even have upgraded injectors. Did it? I don't think. No, it didn't. No, of course it did. It's DI. Which, that's the nice thing about DI is that the low side is just a lift pump, and so your low side will do quite a bit of work and the high side will run out beforehand. Assuming I have an issue with my injector scaling, 2010 Camaro E38 1000cc injector, 7 pounds boost down, 2.5 duty cycle. I can't get it leaner than 7% rich at idle. Welcome to the world of big injectors, 780. So what you're running into is that at a certain injector size, you have minimum pulse width, which is the smallest window in which you can actuate an injector and actually get fuel out of it. Okay? And it's, in milliseconds. You get below that window and the injectors just don't deliver any fuel, won't run. That's how you can find that window. Now, there's a certain point when the injectors are big that the minimum pulse width to get any fuel out of them is going to be rich at idle. That is just what you have to deal with. So 7% rich at idle is not bad. Probably not even really smelling gas with 7% rich. But you're not getting rid of that. You can try going into the minimum injector pulse width and lowering that down, but you'll end up getting to a point where the thing struggles to run. Okay? Does Silverado have a boost pump? No, Mike, and there's a couple reasons why. So one, I don't have any issues with boost pump. That technology's been around forever. You're just basically pushing 16 volts to the pump to get more out of it. Funny enough, we're talking about drive shafts. I tossed a aluminum drive shaft through the stock fuel tank, and that was literally before I moved up here to Pennsylvania. So the truck had been in storage with no fuel tank for months, almost a year. So I had to get ready to move up here. So I threw a fuel cell in it. And whenever I did that, I just put like a 320 pump in it, like a, in-tank AEM unit or air motive unit. Uh, 1000 cc's and 80s are pretty close. And Andrew's right also. Could be skewing the wideband at idle. But if it's at 7 and you keep on removing fuel and it doesn't go down, it's because you've hit the minimum duty cycle. And it may be that you still have a big, minimum pulse width in there. It might be 3 or 4 milliseconds, 5 milliseconds if it's still stock, and you can probably drop that down to 1.5 or so and make a huge difference. So go check that out. But that's what you'll see is if you can no longer remove fuel, it's because you've hit the minimum pulse width setting, and so it just will not command a shorter pulse width than what's in that table. That's great. That's a great question and great information that most people don't realize, specifically when it comes to dialing in idle on that stuff. There's a new Prelude. I'm going to have to look it up. Honda Prelude. Ugh. I missed the last generation Prelude. The 5th generation Prelude was so amazing. Whoops, no. Yeah, exactly. A Rowdy Cam will like a little richer idle anyways. I mean, what's the power plant? It's no, that's the old one. Do we know what the... Okay, here. Oh, it's a hybrid. Of course. Why does the word Prelude look like... Wait a second. What's going on here? Hold on. Whiteboard. So, is Porsche going to sue over this? Why are we making this look like a Porsche? Prelude. That's all. No specs. But seriously, like, this is a no-no. Come on, Honda. Like, figure it out. You don't need to make this look like But at the same time, it makes me want to buy one and then, put like Carrera 4S on the back or something. Instead of Prelude, Honda Carrera 4S. It's not a bad looking car though. I mean, for a Honda, kind of sharp. I'll say this much: it's a hell of a lot better looking than the Civic right now, which absolutely looks just dumb. But yeah, that 5th gen Prelude, yeah, what you had, Shep, that was just one of my all-time favorite Hondas. Such a good-looking car. With a great motor. It was a great motor. Yeah, it's just like, why does the new Honda Civics have to look like a car out of an anime movie or something? Like, what are we doing? It's too much. It's too much. Oh man, I'm tired. Sorry guys, I'm tired tonight. The energy's a little low. I've got golf tomorrow, so that's always a good Friday work day. One of our vendors is taking us out to golf, and it's actually not supposed to rain. Full exhaust. Wasn't farty. 421 header, high flow cat. Yeah, that 2.2 was a very good motor. With what was the moniker for that ship? The EJ22. Jeep Recon? What the hell is a Jeep Recon? Did they just announce a whole bunch of new cars or something and I just don't pay attention? Oh, no. That thing looks like a turd. Is this replacing that other turd-looking Jeep? What was the mini Wrangler that they made? I have a sneaking suspicion. Oh, the H22. Yep, the H22. Great motors. Great motors. And in fact, yeah, the Renegade. Thank you, Kevin. Looks like the Renegade started taking steroids in an attempt to be a Wrangler. Back in the day when I had a RX-7, I almost got rid of it for an S2000. But I didn't because I drove the S2000. And it's hard. As sweet as that platform is, it was convertible. And I was a broke kid, so I couldn't afford to buy a hardtop. I could barely afford to buy a car. I had everything in my RX-7 at the time. And I was looking at an S2000, and it was the first generation that really revved high. They kind of dumbed them down a little bit after a couple years. And love the platforms. Like, that was the heyday of Honda, that early 2000, where you had the good-looking Prelude. Even the Civics were just knocking it out of the park. You had the S2000, the NSX. Yeah, the AP2. Thanks, Shep. Yep. Yeah, it was the first variation that had the red line and the salesman that was with me is like, oh, you really gotta spin this thing up and get a lot of RPMs to make power. And I'm like, bro, I drove here in a rotary. You don't know anything about RPMs. You think you know RPMs. You don't know RPMs. I got RPMs. I'm over here in a car, spinning it to 9,000 like it's nothing. And only limited by the transmission because it would toss its guts out, or the drive shaft would start to flex and destroy itself because the motor would spin as fast as you wanted it to and not miss a beat. But it felt very like controlled chaos in the S2000 whenever you got above like 7,000 RPMs. Like, of course, the VTEC was kicking in, it was making power, and it was really fast, but it felt faster than it was because it was just like, you felt like you were maybe 2 seconds away from absolutely destroying the motor. Kim says, I understand the LS thing is it these days. I'm 65. Traded into a 99 Ram 1500 5.9 setup for drag racing motor. Was shot. Built another. I don't know this injection stuff. I grew up old school. What are you trying to learn, Kim? I take it Mike doesn't like the S2000. I couldn't talk about the gas mileage because my RX-7 got absolutely terrible gas mileage. On the early Dodge Ram stuff, it's just like an LS. I mean, the early stuff is just very straightforward. You know. Yeah, so I did finish the core's wiring. Oh, gotcha. Well, I haven't seen RoboCop in like 20 years. I'm going to... Listen, I've got to do a lot of videos. Specifically, I got to do something about VCM Live. I've got 2 or 3 that I need to do about VCM Live because there's some tips and tricks that I've learned about that need to be documented in a video. And I will do one about wiring because I did a couple tweaks on my wiring that are a little bit different than what you would expect on the stock setup. And so I'll go over those and do those. Since I'm still waiting on the drive shaft, maybe if I get time this weekend, I'll try and knock out a few so I can release those over the next couple of weeks. Honestly, I've been going down in the garage and working, not even taking the camera down with me. Hoopty, tuning the 2000 Silverado as I watch this, man. That's what I'm talking about. Living that ABT life. He is always being tuning. Yeah, Kim, the big thing is get a wideband. Got to get a wideband installed. That's the number one thing, the number one takeaway. You've got to have good data. And then go back and watch some of the Gen 4 and Gen 3 LS stuff. It'll kind of give you an idea of what you're looking for in particular on Dodge stuff and help fill in some of the holes. You think they will have a wireless network like the new Holley and Fuel Tech? Probably not. But I cannot speak on what's in development. And I'm saying that 2 ways. 1, I can't speak about the stuff I know about that's in development. And 2, there are, I'm sure, things that I don't know about that are in development. And I honestly don't pry that much. Wireless is a gimmick. So I just don't think that it's like, I don't know. Especially the Holley stuff, like the Holley wireless stuff. It's like, oh yeah, you can tune it from your phone. I don't want to tune stuff from my phone. Like, that's a terrible idea. Now, Fuel Tech's a little bit of implementation, you know, but it's convenience. I get that, but I mean, technically, you could probably do it with some third-party stuff. Since the core uses a Ethernet connection and it shows up as an Ethernet device. So my guess is it would not be hard to integrate that, and that might be something that gets tied into the HPT net. I don't know. Got a recommendation for a wideband. For a 99 Dodge Ram, help me out, folks. Everybody, what's my favorite one? Yeah, like laptop, wireless, I'm okay with that. But like the Holly implementation of just having like a mobile app and you've got a couple, and you might as well just use the touch screen that comes with them. I was wondering about airflow. My car is really smooth, but open loop. Yeah, Ken got it. The AEM 300301. That's the one that Kenneth posted there is the one, Kim. That's my favorite one. That's what I use on anything that is not a Gen 2 OBD2 port or whatever. Sorry, airflow, cars running really smooth, but in open loop, I'm a little lean in areas. I was thinking that maybe not just about what we think the engine, but what makes the engine. Well, I'm lost here, Mike. What are we talking about? You lost me. Kamar. Speaking of wideband, should I get the Haltech WB2 can wideband or stick with my Innovate LG1? That's an analog input to my Haltech Rebel. So I'm kind of two minds. If I were in your place and I already had the DLG1, I'd probably just stick with that and run analog out into the Rebel and then verify it. But at the same time, I like the idea of having a separate CAN controlled wideband controller that you can tie in. So part of that would make me want to buy one of those. Yeah, the 0300s. Oh, what we think the engine needs and what makes the engine happy. That's correct, because there is a lot of that. Like Mike brings up a good point. Like we have, in theory, what would make the engine happy is to always be running stoic. But we know in application that's not the case, because cylinder temps get out of control and stuff like that whenever cylinder pressures go up, and that's why we have to use power enrichment. There you go. Shep's on the CAN wideband with the Elite 2000, fast and accurate. Shep, let me ask you this: does the CAN wideband unit support more than just the 4.9? Does it support the 4.2 and the NTK and all that jazz? I'm guessing it probably does. But yeah, I mean, and if you go back and look, like we were talking earlier, like if you got a rowdy cam in there, it's not going to idle at 14.7 or 1 lambda. You know, it's going to want to be 14 or 13.7, you know, based on how rowdy things are. So just because the theory says it should be this doesn't mean that's the truth. Why is what did my printer stop? Oh, it's still going. Which, I mean, the 4.9 is plenty from, unless you're racing, you know. If you had a pro mod that's making 4,000 horsepower, yeah, you want NTKs, but if there's somebody in here with a 4,000 horsepower pro mod, like, raise your hand. I want to know you. If I hit the lottery, I would do one. I would do one. I would do it. It'd probably put me in my grave. That would be the end of me. But I would be going out at a very high rate of speed with a big smile on my face. Yeah, and that's the big thing is analog. And the thing about it is, as long as the analog circuit is good, like you're using a ground that is shared with the ECU ground and stuff like that, the analog should be good. But there's just too many outside factors that can affect analog, as opposed to using CAN or serial which are, both communication standards. So, and I've talked about this in the past. So we've got a sensor that is taking an analog reading. It comes back to a controller that converts that to a digital reading. Now, whenever we use CAN bus or serial bus, that stays digital all the way to the screen, all the way to your math, all the way to your closed loop operation. If we go to analog, then we have to go back to analog, and then it has to go back to digital. So not only do we have the chance of the analog getting skewed just from RFI and stuff like that, we're converting it over multiple times where we don't have to convert it whenever we're using communication. And the nice thing about communication is nowadays all communication is robust, and so it has checksums on it. So if the data does not come in correctly, the data gets messed up, something like RFI starts messing with your signal, that data just doesn't populate. And so you know that you've got a problem. Could that be some of my throttle snubble? Commanding stoic at idle. Nah, probably not, but you can try. Can just go into your stoic table and take it from 14.7 down to 14 and see how it does. You're not going to hurt anything. You're going to get, your gas mileage is going to take a hit, but it's not going to hurt anything richening up. That's going to richen up the thing across the entire board, but it's a quick and easy test. Oh, hoopty. 427 LSX with twin 80s coming soon. Okay, well, you're working your way towards that 4,000. Well, you're right, Mike. And he says if I power enrichment, if I command too little, it's like I'm leaving power. Too much and I get knock. Too little or too much, both will give you knock. Too little or too much, both will leave power on the table. So that's one of those things. And literally was talking with a guy today or yesterday that PE was like at 0.76. And I'm like, dude, that's way too rich. Like, we got to drop that back. Awesome, Kamar. But even the non-lab grade NTK is like super expensive, isn't it? That's not bad. The NTK one's, well, it's still $150. The lab grade one. Whew. Of course, Holly asks $360 for it. Holly, man, I don't know what kind of crack they're smoking over there, but it must be good. Dude, I love a Pro line. And here's the thing, it's not even really that the NTKs are like super accurate compared to the 4.9s. It's the range is a lot bigger. They've got like about twice the range of the 4.9, which is important if you're doing stuff like, propane, those funky fuels. The funky fuels that are outside the range of the 4.9. You're on gas, you're on ethanol. 4.9 all day. CEO got a new lake house and boat. An airplane to get to the beach house. Yeah. Sometimes it's tough being a CEO. I'll never know. Don't have to worry about that. Will never be a problem with me. And I'm definitely not making Cletus money from my YouTube channel over here, so never going to be a problem for me. My beach house will be a single wide next to a lake. Gen 3, if you change throttle body to something bigger, should you mess with the IAC steps versus the effective area table? Well, possibly. So, the IAC, okay. The IAC steps are airflow readings, And so what you'll see if you have issues, Saxon, is that we have an ideal range that we like to keep the IAC, and that's that 50 to 80 count range, because that's where it has the pintle has the most flexibility in making changes for controlling idle. I'm trying to think of a better way of saying it. So that's where it shines. Now, the way the ECU works is whenever it's in idle control, we still have a base idle airflow table. And so we set that. That's our minimum airflow. Say we've got it 75 pounds per hour. Now, that lookup table that you're talking about says at this point, at this many steps, I should be getting an additional 10. This many steps, I should be getting an additional 15 pounds per hour. Now, if it doesn't control and it keeps on going out of there, you can adjust those up and down, but generally you don't have to mess with that. Just make sure your counts at operating temperature are between 50 and 80 and see how it does. Then dive into some of the other stuff. Yeah, Hoopty, that's what we're here for. Did I ever run nitrous in Super Auto? No. But I think on the Camaro, that's what I'm going to end up doing is running nitrous. We were literally, Buddy and I were talking about, see you 780, Buddy and I were talking about how much nitrous we'd feel comfortable running. Non-ETC, throttle closed shouldn't matter, right? Well, that's yes and no, Andrew. So the throttle stop, the set screw is what we use to get the counts in the range that we're looking for. And if the throttle body, okay, so a lot going on here. So look at it this way, on a drive-by cable, there's a hole in the backside of it that is the breathe hole for the IAC. And the IAC is just a plunger that goes in and out and allows air to bypass the throttle blade. So, and that's why I was talking about that 50 to 80 counts is where it has the highest resolution of control. And so we adjust the throttle screw on the throttle body to get the IAC in the 50 to 80. And so the IAC steps versus effective area table generally doesn't have to be messed with once we've got the blade angle set whenever it's closed at the right angle to allow the IAC to do what it needs. Even on Gen 3 stuff, it's still a fast and slow system. You hear me talk more about it on torque stuff because it's very much how torque works. But even on the old stuff, it's still a fast and slow system. So fast is timing control and slow is going to be airflow control, your IAC. So whenever we're doing idle corrections, the fast correction is always your timing. And you'll see your timing fluctuate trying to control it. And it may hit limits high or low based on that. And then the slow is the IAC moving. Once the IAC finds a position where it wants to be, you should see your timing curve go from doing this to more like the, small fluctuations to maintain it at that point in time. It is a balancing act where everything doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, but everything has to maybe be tweaked a little bit. And the airflow is the more important thing to tweak and then allow the, yeah, and you're right. The big thing is like the IAC componentry hasn't changed. Like they're not going in there and if the factory IAC, vent hole is that big, they're not going in there and making it that big. They're going to keep that, the same size because you're still using a factory IAC. So that should still be the same parameters within how it operates on the tune. Well, I don't have one. Growing up, we always had one at our local lake. We called it the Trailer Park Taj Mahal. And it was about a mile from the boat ramp. There was a trailer park there with a bunch of little single wides that you could rent. And my grandparents had one, and then my dad had one right behind there. And I mean, he bought that thing for like $7,000 way back in the day, and then sold it for like stupid money, like 35 grand or something. Ah, Day of the Soul, thanks, brother. I'll shoot you. You'll get the email at some point in time giving you the details. Yeah, 140-ish is a little bit outside of the range. You're getting outside of that area where it likes to be for control. So, okay. It's 8:32. I'm going to wrap it. Guys, I want to say I appreciate everybody who swung by for another awesome Thursday night. I'll see you guys next Thursday. And if you're not following me on Instagram, go follow me on Instagram. Go Rope Garage. Go look at the little display that I was playing around with as a shift indicator. Could be cool. I ordered some different parts because I just used some parts I kind of had sitting around. So it'll end up being like a CAN bus shift indicator. So if you guys like it, you know, I can do a video on setting that stuff up. So, and kind of going through figuring all that jazz out. But listen, you guys know the drill. Thanks for stopping by the garage. Remember, ABT, always be tuning.